Hello,
Yo,
how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all
Trying to
right.
adjust the camera.
Yeah, you got to get the angles.
There we go.
Make sure we can see you. How are you what is it? Still morning? Yes, this morning.
It's still morning. It's still morning over here in LA.
Yes, it is. And we've got sunshine. We had a few, like what? Didn't it feel like a month of like gloom?
Oh yeah, it was. I was like, they should decrease the amount I pay for rent every month because I didn't move here to experience this weather.
People get so upset with me when I say that. I think I told my students that at least a few times a week. Like, I didn't move here for this.
Where are you
Where's
from?
the sun? I'm from Houston.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm from Ohio, so I get used to it. Or we get like we're gray like maybe 9 months out of the year, and then we get
Uh,
3 months of sunshine if we're lucky.
See, we get a lot of summer weather, but we're a very humid place, so it rains a lot. So it's not necessarily gloom, but it's just like the sun could be out and then boom, thunderstorm, flood,
Right.
hurricane. You know what I mean? So it's like I moved out here to be able to be in the sun and enjoy it and not
Right.
be sweaty and just like
Right.
bad.
So I'm like, cut me a deal on this rent when the sun's not out.
Right.
We need to prorate every day.
Exactly. I mean, they shouldn't be charging us rent during the Rona anyway, but that's a whole nother conversation. So thank you so
Fascinating.
much for being here
Of
today.
course.
So before we jump in and get started, I'm going to let everybody know the rules, what I usually hold my phone when I say the rules. The rules are this is not your opportunity to pitch. Okay, guys? Not what today is about. Today is about process.
Oh, we're gonna talk about
Okay.
that. We're gonna talk about
Today is
when to
about
pitch.
yeah, when to pitch. Exactly. Today is about journey, not your ideas. Okay. So when we get to the question and answer part, if your questions are all about, well, I have this idea, I'm going to skip it. I'm going to act like I don't see it. That's not what today is about. Okay. So welcome, Mark. And I'm not going to introduce you because that's what I want you to be able to do yourself. So first question is, or first thing we want to know is, what's your backstory? How
Mhm.
did you get here? Where are you from? Were you doing something else before you transitioned into entertainment? And what did all of that look like? How did you get here?
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, born and raised, and I studied at Ohio University for undergrad, where I studied media management, thinking that it would be like a hybrid between film and business. It ended up being a program that was like more focused on news production, which is not what I wanted to do. And before I moved to California, I was working in PR. So I was working with the Cleveland Cavaliers in corporate communications for 4 seasons, not with LeBron. He literally bookended my time with the team.
Darn.
I know. I came 6 months after he left. I remember the decision. I remember where I was, who I was with, what I was drinking, everything.
Yes, what you were
Um,
thinking.
it was a tough period. But then I joined the team 6 months later, and then literally a month after I left, he came back.
You were like, yo,
I mean, everybody was like, "Are you gonna go back?" Because I was still working in Cleveland. I left the Cavs to go work for a nonprofit
mhm.
because I kind of knew that I needed to work somewhere where I could make more money. Because sports at the time, like and for the team when LeBron wasn't there, we weren't getting paid a ton of money. It was my first job, so I wasn't commanding a high salary.
Right. Mhm.
And I was okay if I'm gonna make this jump. I really loved my job at the Cavs. It was a lot of fun. I was learning how to write. I was learning how to pitch to media. I was really learning corporate structure and figuring out how to navigate a corporation and a business. Because my job gave me the opportunity to work with every different department in the company, from leadership to maintenance and the clean team. Um,
That's great.
so I really got a great exposure, and I was young, and I'm still young, but I was having, a great time with my colleagues. And so it was a tough decision to make, but I really had to like kind of just decide on how I was going to bet on myself and how I was going to make my way closer to, being in the industry that I had dreamed of being in and really investing in myself. So I left the team. That was a tough decision to make, and went to work for the Downtown Cleveland Alliance. There, I was fortunate to be with a bunch of people who I volunteered with and worked with for 2 years. And I just started applying to film school. I was like, might as well get this muscle, built now while I can afford to pay for applications. And so I applied to 6 different film schools. Like I applied to NYU, Howard, USC, Loyola Marymount, just as UCLA. I applied everywhere, just kind of like, wanted to see what would happen. And almost everybody told me no, except for Howard and USC. And so it was kind of like a dream. So I applied for the Peter Stark programs. I knew that I wanted to get my master's, and I wanted to continue my education in films. I knew that I needed to keep studying. I didn't want to just kind of jump out here and, grab my DSLR and start shooting movies and shorts, because some people can do that. Some people have that muscle, that hustle, that mentality. And I'm more of like a navigator. Like I try to figure out what the system, what the structure is, and I try to infiltrate and move through it, so that I just know that those are my skills, and they're better than to navigate that way. And so I knew I needed to have a draw to move out here. I couldn't just do it on my own. And I say that meaning like I'm not built that way. A lot of people have done it. You have to know yourself. Exactly. A lot of people have done it, been successful with it, but I just kind of know how I think and how I process information, how I deal with conflict, and it felt like the best way for me to do that was through school. So I got into the Peter Stark program at USC. And that's a 2-year intensive production training program, a producer training program, and it was phenomenal. It was one of the best experiences of my life. My undergrad really trained me socially, trained me like how to navigate the world, how to navigate people, how to maneuver politically. And Stark really gave me that professional training that I needed, and that I was craving. And in that program, I knew that it was a 2-year program. I was going to be in LA. I was going to be, able to kind of move and navigate freely. So I needed to get as much experience as possible. So I decided to intern every semester. The first semester I interned was at Macro, which is where I'm currently working and thriving. And it was Macro's second internship class. It was the first year of the company. I moved out here, right as Charles was starting Macro. And I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, I want to work with you one day. I would love to collaborate." Or typical bright-eyed, bushy-tail, aspiring storyteller, reaching out to the head honcho, put me on. And I didn't get a response, but it's cool. And I started looking for interns, so I applied for the internship. I got it. It was a great intern experience because it was such a young company. They were still, putting the pieces together, the foundation. And so I really got to do a lot more than I would normally, or most interns get to do in a position like that. And I kept saying, "Hey, I got prior work experience. I'm not just
I'm not a child. I'm not a child. I can do some of these things. Give me some responsibility."
Right. I was in my mid to late 20s at the time. And I had a great experience, and they kind of just kept me around. And then after that, I went to Dan Lynn's company, which is now called Ryback. It was Lynn Pictures at the time. They've done Lego Movie, then I went over to CAA, Creative Artists Agency, and kind of around that time, I first got here, I don't want to work in an agency. I don't want to do that. But the more I kept being in the program, kind of talking to people, I kept hearing go to an agency, go to an agency, go to an agency. And I had in my mind at the time that I was going to just graduate and go start producing independently, and get my Sundance on to make a movie, and then be in Sundance the following year. But something kept telling me that, getting back to that what are my strengths, what am I good at, what am I used to, or what has worked for me in the past. And I was like, why don't you just go to this agency, get this experience. Best decision I ever made was to go to CAA. Because I got to learn, and you'll see through all my internships. After CAA, I went to Fox Searchlight. But so that means I was at a startup, I was at a production company with the first deal at Warner Brothers, I was at an agency, and I was at a studio in Fox.
So all of those were internships. These are not your jobs.
Correct.
Okay.
So all those were internships. So that was me getting information, building my network, working to build my profile. And understanding how the different pieces of this business work. So production companies are the ones who go out and get the material and then submit it to The studios are the ones who are like, the powerhouse juggernauts who are, putting these movies out in front of audiences. And the agencies, the one people outside of this don't really know that much about, are the people making all that happen. And the one connecting the fields, getting the writers to the material, getting the material to the producers, getting the producers to the studio. And they're the ones who are talking about it around town and keeping the energy and the buzz up. And having that exposure and experience helped me to build a holistic understanding of how the machine works. And so by the time I came out of Stark and got all that training, because the Stark program is unique in that none of our professors are, academics. They're all industry professionals doing what they are teaching you in real time. One of my professors was fired, was let go from her job as the head of a television production studio. And she came to class and talked about what that was like. And she's like, I'll be fine. She's like, I'll bounce back. Like, I'm not really worried about it. These things happen. And I want to like be vulnerable with you all to tell you what that's like. And you don't get that kind of information, that exposure otherwise. So Start gave me a huge leg up. And then I graduated. I started at Macro 2 weeks later as an assistant to Kim Roth, who's our president of production. And just continued to climb the ranks. After a year, I was promoted to coordinator. After another year, I was promoted to creative executive, and currently I'm director of development on the film side. And I've only been with the company for 3 years, but I've been able to achieve tremendous growth. And I think a lot of that is because I was prepared. I did the work. I studied. I did the grunt work. Like, I started at the bottom, the lowest rung you can in this business, and worked my way up, and did so, diligently and passionately, just as I am, working now on my projects. And that's my journey to this point.
Awesome. So just so that people understand, because we're going to assume that everyone who's watching has no idea what you're talking about. All right. So tell us the difference, especially because you've been able to do this at one company. What were some of the things that you had to do as an intern versus an assistant versus the coordinator? And then what does it mean to become an executive at the same place?
Oh, cool. So as an intern, again, my experience was unique because I was, the company was just in its first year of existence and kind of really, happy to have somebody who was eager to do whatever they wanted it to. So the intern, like, you get coffee traditionally. It's not a lie. You go get coffee orders. You pick up lunch. You read a bunch of scripts and do coverage. Coverage is the process by which you read a script and then you evaluate it for the company employees and offer your recommendation of whether you should consider it or pass. And from there, they kind of use interns as an extra set of eyes, because there's just a huge influx of material constantly coming in when you're working at a place like Macro. Where it has a profile and people are very curious about what we're going to do with our goal of telling multicultural stories, and really looking to do that at a level that we haven't seen historically, that we're seeing more of now, and be solely focused on that. So there's a lot of material that I had to kind of be like dug through. It was like doing research, like when someone wants to do a project on a certain particular field, you would just kind of research as much information as possible. Look at how these films have performed in the box office. These kinds of films have performed in the box office in the past. You're kind of just really being a day-to-day helping hand when people have deep dive projects that we need to get into, because as you'll see now as executive, I'm doing way more. And it's helpful to have somebody who can help you with those things, so you can focus on your job. And so then as an assistant, which is, I think, a vital position in our business, I left, or when I came back to become an assistant, I was working for the president of production, and that job was, a lot of reading, a lot of supporting the senior executive, and really making sure that they're able to do their job, that they're able to focus. So making sure they know who's been calling, because the phones are ringing nonstop when people are asking them information or ask for updates on projects. Making sure that their email box is clean. They're not missing any important emails that they need to follow up with artists, with other executives, other companies who you're collaborating with, or like when new material comes in, making sure that the information is constantly being flowing and circulating. My bad.
You're
Circulating.
popular.
No,
It's
I'm on the clock.
right. They're like, I'm working.
So, and as assistant, like there's some personal tasks that pop up every now and then. You know, it's really that grunt work and making sure that your executive is able to focus on the work and do their job. And at the same time, because I'm ambitious and I'm wanting to make a splash, I was still meeting with artists like my homies who graduated from USC, like the artists who I would meet when I go on the weekends to like see a festival and then watch short films. I was constantly trying to like look for who those next voices are. So I was being additive to the work that we're doing and constantly reading scripts. The stuff that my boss is reading, I'm reading with her and making sure that I'm and 2 steps ahead of her or like 2 steps with her, so that when she wants feedback on the script, I can say, oh, I have some thoughts. Here's what I was thinking. Here's what I bumped on, or here's what I liked about this. And just trying to be as additive as possible, because I think a lot of times people look at the role of assistant and think it's just this small thing, but you really keep your boss's like life and work afloat. And if you do that well, they'll trust you to know that, one, you have good taste if you have good taste. We can talk about that too. One, trusting your taste, trusting that you don't let things fall through the cracks. And if you do, you know how to course correct, you know how to fix problems, you know how to
kind of problem solving all day. It's kind of a problem solving industry.
Everything in this business is problem solving. And one thing my boss told me that I'll never forget, when she first, gave me the job, she was like, anticipation is the key to success in this job. Anticipate what the problem is, anticipate what the need is. And if you do that, when you become a producer, you'll always be a step ahead and nothing will catch you off guard or shock you.
Yeah, that's good.
My brother keeps waving in the chat, so I'm just going to say hi.
Wave back. Hey, brother. We'll always. Hey. Okay, so now as an executive, or quickly, just kind of tell us, so what's the difference between being an assistant and being a coordinator? What does that title bump mean?
So in the coordinator, I still was working with my boss, but I was kind of servicing the entire department. At the time, it was film and television. We were doing everything. And so it's making sure that when scripts come in, everybody has a script, making sure that people know a script has come in, organizing the notes, putting together lists of, like, when a project comes in, what directors would be good for this, what writers would be good for this, what actors would be good for this, and kind of putting together exhaustive lists. And part of the challenge of the work when working at a company like Macro, again, who's focused on multicultural storytelling, is knowing who those Black, brown writers are, digging and doing the research and understand, so you don't overlook voices, and you're not, you're making sure that everyone has access and the opportunity to be considered. And that we're at the forefront of that, because a lot of times people call Macro and say, hey, do you have a list of Black genre writers? Do you have a list of Latino comedy writers? And we need to Latinx, and we need to have, that material, or we like to, because we are, it's our focus.
People expect you guys to be like that gatekeeper. People expect you guys to have like all of this information, because you are a Black production company, because Charles has such a big name. They're like, well, if we call to them, they're going to have the information. So it's good for you to then say, oh yeah, we do have this information.
We got you.
We got you. Okay, so now as an executive, what's your day-to-day? What does that mean? We spoke with an executive last week who was in TV current programming, right? So you in film development. So if you could tell us kind of what the difference between those two things are, and anything else you want to give us about being an executive.
I can't really speak to current, because I don't know. I should have been on that call to figure out what current is. And I know what current maintaining the current programming that's on air.
Exactly, because it's TV, right? So they have things that are in development, which is just what you do, but for television. Right. But for current, they're dealing with the day-to-day, week-to-week. It's always going until 5 years, 10 years. The thing is, on TV forever.
So for film development, as an executive, my job is basically to, one, know what material is out there, find it, bring it in, and then develop it, which I'll talk a bit about what that means, and then produce it. So I have to read. I have to constantly be reading and kind of knowing what new writers there are coming up. Again, it's helpful when you have interns or assistant or coordinators who will help you with that work to flag people for you. It's also helpful to do things like this and panels, like go to mixers, go to meet and greets, take people out to lunches and dinners, and meet with reps and agents to kind of get your hands on what material is out there and what voices are out there. We also take generals with actors, directors, and writers, and in general meetings we just sit down for an hour and you kind of just get to know each other creatively and personally. And there's a lot of meetings, a lot of lunches, lots of dinners, lots of mixers, lots of script reading, to find that material and find those voices. And once you find them, then you advocate for it. You come to the company, you say, hey, like, I want to tell this story. I think this is amazing. I think this director has an incredible style. I want to work with them and find a project with them. This writer has an amazing voice. Take and weigh into this story. And then you make the case for that. And then the company will say, hey, like, congratulations, or not congratulations. They'll say, like, we like that. You know, we think that you can do this. So go ahead and run with it. And then you'll option the material. For us, we have a first deal at Warner Brothers. So occasionally we'll take it to Warner Brothers and say, hey, will you put an offer in on this on our behalf as the producers, and they are them as a studio. And so once you get the material and it's yours, you start developing it. So you work with your writer. And if it doesn't have a writer, you find the writer. So then you go to the agencies and you say, hey, I need a writer this is the story. You pitch it to them. Who do you have? And they'll send you lists. You'll read their samples, their pilots, or their feature scripts. And you'll dig through. You'll pick like your top 5 or 10. And then you'll have meetings with them and you'll hear their take on the material, see how they respond to it. And you'll narrow it down to like 2 or 3 people. And then they'll come in and pitch to the creative team, and they'll give you, basically walk through the movie as they see it with you and what they intend to do creatively, and you'll go with the person who has the best pitch that you feel will get you closer to making the movie that you want to make. Because again, as a development executive, your job is to usher the project from idea to IP material. And so once you get your writer, you guys work through it, you bust through the project, draft after draft after draft, until you get to the place where everybody's happy with it. You pay them. And, once you get the material that you have, you say, okay, we have the script, let's take it out. And taking it out means you're going to go around to different studios. If you're going to go through the studio route, which is the big Hollywood structure, or you take it to financiers if you're going to go through the indie structure. Macro is fortunately also a financier, so we have capital to invest in our project, which was which is and it was a big part of Charles's plan in starting Macro and leaving WME, William Morris Endeavor, to become a producer. Was having the ability to invest and finance your own films, because that is where you have true autonomy and power, and you become a gatekeeper or a supporter, I'd rather say, of injecting the pipeline with new stories. And we've worked with artists like Stephen Cable Jr. We helped co-finance his first film, The Land, before he did Creed 2. We've worked with a number of first-time filmmakers and investing in their film. We had 3 films at Sundance this year that we invested in or produced in some capacity. And all of those artists were artists of color. So you take it out, you take it either to the studio or to the financiers. And from there, you hopefully, in best case scenario, have a bidding war where you have multiple parties interested in your material who will then fight to make it by throwing money at you. And so then once you get it set up at the studio, you'll go through another potentially development process where they have notes and things that they want to see apply. And it's the producer's job to convey at that point, you go from development executive to producer. And it's your job to service the studio and protect the artist. Make sure that the studio is happy with the material that they're getting, and that the artist, your writer, is able to produce and feels protected by you. And so at that point, once you get the script you want, the studio will then say, okay, let's add a director. Who's the director that you want to, that's right, Renard, we also co-finance Sorry to Bother You, which is Boots Riley's feature directorial debut. So once you do that, you add your director. The director will come in, have their vision, and then they will start to like, you know, work on the script with the writer a bit as well. And at the same time, you're starting to go into prep. And prep is pre-production, is where you're starting to get cast. You're starting to like hire your key crew members. You're starting to location scout. You're starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together to create your strategy plan for filming your project. And then you do that for about anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And or the film that I was prepping before we shut down because of the virus, we prepped for 6 weeks. We had a very short prep, but we were going to hit a window. So you prep for anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and then you shoot your film anywhere from 4 weeks to months if you're shooting a big Marvel movie. That movie sometimes 6 to 9 months to shoot. And then after that, you go into your post-production is roughly anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half, depending on how much, you know, visual effects or how many, if there's reshoots and things you have to do to help continue to shape the film. And at each step of the process, you're still working with your studio, working with your artists to keep things on track. And it's your job, again, to protect the material and protect the interests of your investors, which is the studio. And, you know, how that process goes and how the film turns out is how you build your reputation as a good executive and producer.
Right. That was so much information. That was great. I see everybody's in here like, yes, gym dropping, yes, learning so much. That's awesome. Okay, so because most of my followers are writers, I know it's done differently depending upon whether this is a studio, whether it's independent, whether it's a TV network, et cetera, et cetera. But for what you guys do at Macro, how much is the writer specifically involved in the entire process? And at what point does that person kind of drop off with their input versus just receiving information about what's going on with the project? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on your experience, and it depends on your agent representatives, negotiation tactics. Typically, if you're just like a baby writer, let's say, and you sold your first spec and you're so excited, you could either, like, if they believe that you can carry this to the next step and the next stage, then you'll get hired to do, you know, a step or two, and that's typically what happens at the studio level. For Macro, we're more artist friendly, so we like to like give artists a chance to, like, you know, get that work, flex their muscles. But you do have to believe they can execute. Because sometimes you read a script, like the script's amazing, or this concept is amazing, it's flawed here and there, but I know the writer who can get this to the next level. So you buy the script and thank the writer for their work, and then you'll hire another writer to come on board.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Right. Oh, sorry, I just gotta, you know.
That's okay.
I can't answer it. So you, where was I? Oh yeah, so you can be hired, you can sell your script and go on with the rest of your life and look forward to attending the premiere when the film comes out.
Right.
But if you are, you know, kept on, if they're like, okay, we see this, we know you're the voice that can get this to the next level, let's stay with this writer, then you'll stay on for as long as they think you can. And then so occasionally, if the script's not getting there, if it's just a struggle, then they're going to bring on a closer, somebody who will write for a very large amount of money per week to like kind of come in, a script doctor, and like do the fixes. And this is going to be happening while they're shooting the movie. Sometimes scripts are not done while they're in production, while they're shooting the movie live. In the best case scenario, that's all done beforehand. When you show up, you're just doing polishes on the day of. Right. Like the director has a new idea, or an actor has an idea that, you know, improves the scene, or there's improv, so it's constantly changing. But you know, a writer tends to if that writer is fortunate to stay on because of their deal or because of just, you know, their skill, they can stay on pretty much to be writing sometimes in production. Like they'll, like, we need new pages, we need this not working, we couldn't find this location, can you fix the script to fit this location? And you'll be basically doing that throughout.
Yeah, I explain to my clients all the time that many professional writers are making their money because they're rewriting other people's stuff.
Yeah.
Like those people are getting a good check to come in and polish up, and then you may, depending upon how much work they've done, never see their name in a credit. They're just coming in, doing their thing,
Right.
and stepping out. So then a lot of people, usually come into the process thinking, I'm going to go in and it's my idea and I'm going to be able to be one of the producers. I'm going to be able to be an executive producer, or I'm going to be able to get some other kind of title, or I'm going to be able to direct this thing myself. How often do you see that? Does it usually happen when people are brand new coming in, or what does that look like?
And it can happen a number of ways. So a lot of people have the mentality, and you should be confident in yourself. You should be, you should have the desire to make your work. But sometimes you have to ask yourself, do I want to see the work exist more than I want myself to be stopping this work from?
Yes.
Because sometimes that's the case. You can have a bomb script or idea, but I want to write, direct, and produce this. You've never done anything before. That's not going to happen unless you find some financier who does not have any idea how movies work, who will give you a lot of money to do that. So sometimes you have to take it on the chin, but I'm going to just sell this with the eyes to the future, that this will signal that I have good ideas. I can, produce these kinds of creative scenarios, concepts that will help me grow as an artist, and take that money that they give you and go invest in yourself, or go, buy yourself more time to continue to flex your creative muscle while you figure it out, or while you get those resources, get those credits and examples of your work and your creative ability and skill to show people. Because if you come with a short and you're like, here's my fire short, and here's my fire movie idea that is an extension of that or is similar to that, then people can be like, okay, we see what you did with 10, 20 minutes of material. We're willing to invest in you. We're willing to go on this ride with you and trust you to do an hour and a half. We think you're ready to make the jump. And so occasionally, like, people will stick on. That's what the indie route really is for. It's like training people to make mistakes, to learn on the job and all that.
Hollywood, on the other hand,
Hollywood, you got to be ready.
Yeah.
So occasionally, first-time directors, like, you see people come out of Sundance from doing a small indie movie to doing a large tentpole. Actually, the two projects that I was most recently working on, or am working on, are by first-time directors, one of which has a really dope short and is known for being like a prolific writer. The other one known for being a prolific writer with a really dope short and TV work. They both actually have TV work, and both are Trojans and friends of mine. But they just have built a creative respect amongst the community, that people hear their name and know that, okay, this person can execute that, or we trust, or we want to invest in them, because we know that with the proper resources and support, this person will execute on something very special. So it really depends, but I think you have to ask yourself, do I want to make this? Do I want this movie to be made, or this idea to be made, or do I want to stand in the way? Because ultimately, if there's a back and forth, that will be a barrier, a prohibitor from the work being made. And sometimes it is work. Sometimes people find that they navigate their way through the system and figure out how to make that movie on their terms. And that's why I say you have to decide for yourself, because sometimes it will be a hard road, or other times you can just sell it and use that money to get the material and things that you need, so that you don't have to have this conversation again.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons it's frowned upon in the industry when a newbie walks into a room and says, and I'm going to be attached here, 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 and here, because it makes the people on the other side of the table go, what's your end goal here? Like, do you really care about the story? Do you really care about the content? Are you really trying to make sure it's going to be its best? Because like you said earlier, if you've never executive produced before, why would you want to experiment on your own child? And because you're the executive producer instead of someone else who has the real experience to come in and do it, now your movie or your TV show or whatever it is doesn't make it to where it could be, because you're not allowing the other collaborators to come in and do their creative part of the job.
Right. I think that one thing that just came to mind: don't do what you heard, do what you can do. And I think a lot of people will hear, oh, so and so directed, produced, and wrote their feature, but you may be a great director, but you may not know how to really like effectively convey that on the page. You may be better at talking about it with people, or like, you know, telling people what to do with you know, the camera and whatnot. And that's another great point you raised. And like, look, people don't know what producing is a lot. You'll see writer, director, producer, and they didn't really do any producerial work. They just negotiated that title, or they demanded it in order for the deal to be made. And producing, I think, is a very disrespected job. Everybody wants the producer credit, but everybody doesn't.
Yeah, they don't realize like it's grunt work times 15, but you're the one responsible.
You are responsible, right? And that's okay. People, you know, people want what they want. But I would also say, you know, find a focus, because film is a collaborative medium, and you really get the best results when you have people working together to put this work out. I just tell Martina, because they don't know, because Martina is a fantastic director and producer. So I kind of shout her out because she knows both of those. Yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought, but.
That's all right. That's all right. Let's get you into something that I know you know. All right. So you take pitches all the time. People are coming into your office all the time. What are the mistakes that are being made? What are the assumptions that are being made? How do you know when someone came in unprepared? We also hear a lot of different things about what you need to take with you in the pitch. And I know this is different depending upon where you're pitching, right? So, but for you, what are those things that make you know, like, this person came in and they were just unprepared, they weren't ready for this, they're, you know, a little ahead of themselves, or these are the big mistakes that are always happening because when you're dealing with new writers?
Yes. So if you're sitting down with me and we're having a face-to-face pitch, that means work has already been done. Groundwork has been laid. Either we've had a conversation, or you've piqued my interest, or your rep has pitched you to me, if you have a manager or an agent. And so I'm already predisposed. I'm already kind of ready to hear what you have to share. But before that, there's a lot. That's where the mistakes are made mostly.
Okay.
Seeing me at a mixer and coming to me and being like, "Hey, Mark, I have this feature idea," and then spurting it out at me while I'm at a mixer with a drink in my hand, probably looking for appetizers. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Mark. Nice to meet you." Don't throw your pitch at people. Like, you know, have a conversation, get to know them, like get them interested in who you are, and that will invite their curiosity. You know, I tend, if I meet people and I vibe with you, I want to know what you do. I want to know more about you. I want to know what you're working on, because I want to work with people who I like, who I connect with.
You're not dumb. You know that they're talking to you because there's something else that's there, right? So it's like, at some point, if you're interested in them as a person, you're going to say, "So what do you do? Like, what are you, you know, working on?" That'll come up. Build
a connection. And even if we'll start like, "Hey, I'm a writer." "Oh, that's what's up. What are you writing on? Where do you work?" Or like, you know, just have a natural conversation. Because you're more inclined to work harder, or to think of and do for people who you like, than just people who you know. And so, like, don't come in hot. Also, like, if we're having a chat about something completely different, whether it be on Instagram, text message, at a mixer, on the phone, don't just pivot like, "Hey, can you read my script?" Because one, I get paid to do my job. And so asking me to read your script only frustrates me, because I already get paid to read a lot. So if you're not going to pay me to read,
like,
it's like, I'm not going to ask like a singer to perform a 1.5 hour concert for me for free. So you ask me to read your feature, which is 100+ pages, takes a significant chunk out of my time and focus and energy. Unless, you know, we're very close, and I've expressed my interest and desire to help you and to like give you feedback, don't ask. Don't ask. You know, just begin, build that relationship, spark my curiosity, and, you know, wait for me to invite you to give me that, or to pitch me, or to tell me about your project. Because then it will make me more inclined to, you know, be receptive to what you're saying. Because if you know, I'm just gonna shut down. I'm like, okay, how can I get out of this conversation? Or like, is this really worth my time? I'm asking myself all these questions, and I'm not focused on what you're saying, and you've missed the opportunity. Also, do research. Understand what I'm looking for or what kinds of movies, at the very least, my job makes. So that way you're not pitching me something that's just completely counter to what it is that I'm looking for. Your job as a writer is to know who you're pitching to, is to understand or ask questions. Do that first. Instead of coming to me and being like, "What? Here, can I pitch you my story, or do you want to read my script?" Ask me what I'm looking for. Ask me what I'm working on. Start to build your information so you understand who you're talking to, and then you can think about what it is that ideas you have that might be a good fit for me. So when I ask you, you're prepared to just spit and let me know what the details are.
And just so people know, that's one of the main reasons why representatives exist, because they can be doing that work for you. They're not going to send you to pitch at Macro if they know what you're pitching doesn't fit there. It's a part of their jobs
Sometimes
as
they will.
agents. Oh Lord. But it's a part of their jobs as agents and managers to be, setting up those generals, always contacting, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? What are you looking for? So a lot of the times, if the writer doesn't specifically know, their manager or agent should be helping them to kind of.
And getting a rep is hard, so that's why it's important for you to do that work yourself, because it's not always easy. Like it's a privileged thing to have a representation. So if you're just a writer hustling, you just moved out here, you're trying to figure it out, you probably don't even know what a manager or agent is or how to find one. So it's important for you to kind of be out there, mixing and mingling, and doing so in a way that's going to maximize your results, and jumping down people's throats and like running up to
or
them.
Passing their actual screenplay to you. Have you had that happen?
Oh my God, I have a story for you. And this
Yes,
person may be watching, but I'm just gonna know that this was a bad move. My cousin was coming over. I invited him over to come hang out with me and have like Thanksgiving dinner. And he was like, "Oh, my friend is with me. Like I helped him move today. Do you mind if he just like drops me off and like comes by for a second?" I was like, "Oh, sure, whatever. Like, I'm making the green beans, so like it's cool, be chilling." So dude comes in the house, like I'm running around trying to take a shower, trying to make sure the green beans don't burn. And I don't really say much to this dude. He's just chilling in my house. I probably offer him a beer or something to drink or something. And as he's like, "Yeah, I come out there, like, about to grab the green beans." He's like, "All right, I'm about to head out." And he comes into the kitchen and shaking. He's like, "It's nice to meet you." And he pulls out of his back pocket a screenplay in my house. We've had no discussion about him being a writer. I knew he was an actor because my cousin's an actor.
I don't even know your name, sir.
I was shocked. I almost,
drop the green beans. We've been working on green beans all day. I'm about to lose them. You pull this stuff.
That zoned me out so bad. I was like, I don't believe this just happened. You come in my house. You give me a screenplay I didn't ask for?
My house? The gall.
The unmitigated gall. So yeah, that was the craziest thing that's ever happened. But as far as like the pictures go, I know we only got an hour, so I don't want to, mess up before we get the questions. But as far as pictures go, be engaging. Don't be reading. If you need to read, find that voice. That animated voice, whatever you gotta do, keep my attention, because if you're not engaging, it's really hard. And some people are brilliant and not as engaging, and that means that the details of what they're saying is gonna be what's gonna keep me focused. Like, their energy is on like 3. I'm naturally like, I stay around an 8. I try to, or you can catch me at a 4. I'm at either 8 or 4. So if I'm at a 4, you need to be at an 8. If I'm at an 8, you
meet me. Run
the gamut. So be engaging. Think about how your story. What's most impactful about your story? If it's a thriller, if it's hit those thrilling moments, like lure me in. If it's a romance, pitch me the love. Pitch me like what I'm longing for, what you want the audience to feel. How you want people to feel watching your movie is how you should pitch it. Basically. Yeah, it's like you should put on a show, and know your material and where that's good. And if you have a super complex world, truncate it, bring it down, make it simple. Help me understand the basic concepts,
Right.
and how those complications and convoluted happenings are going to make this entertaining. Because if you're trying to explain to me the whole world in a 45-minute pitch, chances are something's going to get lost. Particularly my interest, but you know, it's hard for me to focus on what you're saying.
Especially if they've been talking at you for 45 minutes. Who knows what you remember from the first
Right,
5?
right. Don't talk over music. I absolutely hate when people try to play music in the background. If music is integral to your pitch, let's have a moment.
Yeah, start with it. Get me there. I'm
Exactly.
feeling okay. Cut
Or
it off.
bring it up at a certain moment, like have your writing partner or have your producer cue it up so you know when you need that music, but then take it out once the effect has taken place.
Yeah, it's distracting.
The green beans were amazing, whoever asked. It's one of my specialties. So yeah, I mean, like, and if you want to bring things, try to put it on the screen, or have something that I can focus on, but you don't, or that you leave behind. When you have like a packet, leave it after the pitch, because if you give it to me beforehand, I'm gonna be flipping and and not listening. If I miss something, sometimes it's a dance. Pitching is a dance, and if you like step on my shoe, I'm thinking about, oh shit, I gotta clean my shoes, and our rhythm's messed up. We got to get back in the rhythm, and that's a disturbance in the pitch. So you want to mitigate disturbances in the pitch, and one, be prepared, knowing your story, and leaving room for me to ask questions. Don't give me everything.
Yes.
Give me room. Entice me.
You hear that, people? Yes. That's
the
note I get all the time. Like, shut up at some point.
Yeah. Shut up at some point. Be self-aware. Know when you're talking too much. Know when you're talking too long. Know when your audience is not engaged, and know when they are. A filmmaker I work with, Joel Taylor. He's a very talented writer director. When he pitches, he looks around the room. He knows when people are engaging. So when they respond to something, he doubles down. Yeah, he knows how to do it. He knows when it happens. And I've watched it time and time again. I'm working on a television series and a feature with him. He'll double down, and he will make sure that that person's getting enough of that thing that they like. Yeah. And if he's somebody else, you got to something else, he'll double down.
Writers become stage actors in the pitch room. It's like being on stage and being able to gauge your audience, because that's the difference between being on stage and doing television and film. Like, whatever performance you give, that's it.
Yeah.
But on stage, if something's not working, you can switch it up. If they're liking something, you can, ride and stay in that place. So I often tell my clients, like, it's time for you to be an actor when you go into this room. You have to use some of these other skills.
And if you're socially awkward, work through it. Prepare, research, and use your quirkiness to the best of your ability. Because it doesn't matter if you're socially awkward or if you are the most gregarious person in the world. You have to, if you want to land this job, you have to bring the best version of yourself to the room.
Great. So I'm going to open it up for questions if you guys have some. Remember, this is not about you pitching to him. So if you have a question, you can put it in down there. In the meantime, I'll ask this question, and you can answer it quickly. But do people often assume that there's going to be audio-visual equipment, and they come in like prepared to do like this big thing, and it's like, you didn't tell me you need that? So we don't have that. Now we just need you to speak.
People tend to check.
Okay.
So always ask. Always have your agent ask, because that can get annoying, and that messes with your energy. If you go in, expect one thing, you walk in, you don't have the material to, perform the way you planned. It can fuck up your energy. Pardon my French.
Right. No, really. Is there ever a better time of the year to take meetings than others? So as a production company, are you guys taking meetings year round? Because I know it's different for certain places, like with TV, primetime networks, they have their season where they're taking meetings. But for you guys, is it kind of year round?
Year round, yep. Always year round.
Here's a question. Should you assume that you can do more than one pitch? I have an answer, but we want to hear yours.
If we are having a pitch meeting, one pitch.
Yes.
Focus.
And it's definitely disrespectful to think that you can take the rest of their time and start talking about all the other things you've ever done in life while you're in there. You got that meeting based on that idea. right? So don't come in
Right.
here talking about other things. Any ideas or advice on query letters?
Query letter, is that like, it's like, what is a query letter? It's been a
So
while.
like a lot of people don't ask for them these days, but you know, sometimes they do. And it's basically, guys, and I'm about to give you the free game. It's basically an email that says, "Hi, my name is, this is where I know you from. If you've won an award or something, you say whatever that is, and then you say, here's my log line.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
interested,
Yeah.
I can send you the screenplay."
I do not like those personally.
Yeah.
It's case by case. Because I feel like if you're sending a query letter, chances are you don't have a rep. So, you know, reps always let me know this material has been vetted at some point. So query letters, they tend to be like mistargeted. If you know what I'm looking for, if you've done that research, you've done that work, you've asked those questions, I'd rather you send it, say, hey, I got your email. Hey, I'm so-and-so, got your email from so-and-so. I'm a writer. This is the kind of thing I like to write. Is there anything, like, can we hop on the phone 15 minutes or can you respond, let me know what you're looking for? I think that's better than, I get those emails all the time and I just ignore them. I think they're spam. I'm like, how'd you get my email?
But that's the information people need to hear. You need to know who will accept those. And a lot of the times that's kind of like a manager kind of
Yeah,
thing
exactly.
anyway, not an executive kind of
Right, because we're
thing.
not allowed to
So
take unsolicited material. Because it protects you and it protects us legally.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so one more question. For you, do you think COVID has changed the kind of material that you guys are looking for?
I definitely think we're not looking for things that are super in the space. You know, I think
Because everybody's about to have a COVID story, okay? Everybody.
yeah. I personally do not want to tell the COVID story. Like, it may be a part of stories moving forward because it is informing and changing our reality.
Right.
But I think I've been probably naturally looking for more levity things that
Yeah.
have more levity in them and are more escapist than like hard dramas, because I think that I predict that audiences are going to probably want lighter fare
Yeah.
after this. If you look at what's trending on Netflix, that's going to tell
Right.
you what people are going to want to be watching a year and a half from now.
Oh,
Those
that's good. That's good. Players Club was on there, and I was mad because I was watching it, and I had to stop. And I went back the next day, and it was gone.
you got
And
to catch
first of
that
all,
window. Got to catch
yeah,
that
you got
window.
to. And as I was watching, I was like, I think I'm going to do a workshop on the Players Club. It's like, if you really watch that film, they are hitting those beats, honey. Like, don't think that just because, you know, it's about strippers and diamond and whatnot, that the
Right,
screenplay itself isn't doing its job. I was like,
right.
come on, Players Club.
There's a
Okay,
reason that
so,
story is so has lived on, because
yes,
it's a satisfyingly told story. It's a
it,
journey.
very well structured. It is really very well structured. So for those of you guys looking to learn screenplay structure, go look at the Players Club. Anyway, so thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to leave us with anything or tell us what your future goals are, or you know, where you see your path going.
You know, I've been learning a lot. I think again, like how I came into this business was through a very structured, kind of informed position. I
Mm-hmm.
think that, you know, as my career continues to grow and I make more movies and get more experience and build more relationships, I want to definitely experience more of a creative, be closer to the creative than I am. I'm a creative producer, but like
Right.
maybe I'll look at writing and kind of being more entrenched in the creative process, because when I came out here, my goal was always to, like, my whole internal thesis was I want to help change the face of the Black man, woman, and family in television and film. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, that's more so focused on, you know, how white people see us. And so then
Right.
it became more about, I want to change how we see ourselves, or
Yeah.
expand the range of images that we have access to. And now kind of coming to a place where I'm just about impacting and shifting culture. And really feeding culture. I think we're in a very culture-rich environment right now. Things we're seeing from artists who are working cross-platform, like Lemonade, Kendrick Lamar's work, Donald Glover's work. You're seeing these artists who are really kind of doing these fascinating things with music and film and television. And I want to kind of be thinking about that moving forward and kind of what the intersection of that looks like and how my participation in that is more than just producerial work and kind of being more helping to push and drive the creative.
Right. Well, that is great. We know that you are on your way. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. And for those of you who are asking, what do I have coming up next? So next week we will be meeting with Sloan. Oh my God, why is her last name leaving me? Sloan Whiteside. We'll be meeting with Sloan Whiteside, who's an entertainment lawyer. So for those of you out there who have been like, got all those questions, right? That I always tell you, you need to ask a lawyer. Like, I can give you my opinion on it. You know what I mean? But you want to ask those people who have that information. So we're going to hear from her next week. I also have some workshops coming up for actors, because actors can learn a lot from the writing process. And in turn, writers can learn a lot from the acting process. So we're going to do some upcoming workshops for actors so they can learn about their cold read by looking into those scenes and seeing what breadcrumbs the writers have left for them. So check that out. And then also going to do a log line pitching event where we're going to have some panelists who get to hear your log lines, and if they are interested in them, maybe do a general meeting with you. So stay tuned for that information. I will be putting it up. We got 3 minutes left. Any last words for the people, Mark?
I would say just keep pushing the boundaries, keep being creative, invest in yourself. Don't be afraid. Not expect, but like, don't let no deter you. Keep working through the no's. There's lots of no's. I got tons of no's. I still get tons of no's. But you still got to show up every day and be your best self and take care of yourself. I think that's the most important thing. Live life. Live life, because the experiences you have will inform you as an artist, as a writer, and make your content more interesting and relatable. Agreed.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. This will be saved on Instagram for 24 hours until Instagram deletes it. And they're supposed to be coming up with something that allows you to save your old lives to IGTV. Hopefully that will roll out soon, and then we'll be able to put all of these things up. But until Instagram gets it together, guys, it'll only be there for 24 hours. So thank you guys so much, and thank you again, Mark.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right, y'all have a good one.
All right.